We all hate mobile game ads, so how do you make one that'll make you download the game? That's a question that every single company has to answer. If you have anything to sell, you better sell it good. Unless of course you want to go broke doing so, but since you're all gacha game players in this audience, I assume you guys know a thing or two or three about going broke. Tying this back into gacha games, you would assume that you can just slap on a hot anime girl into the cover and the game will practically sell itself. While that does work sometimes, it gets to a point where even gooning appeal isn't enough because everyone's appealing to the gooners. Now, Yostar is an absolute titan in the weeb space. You look anywhere into gacha games or hell even anime or even Japanese TV and somehow you'll find Yostar in there. They're like the Pepsi of the gacha game space. You can reserve Coca-Cola for Psy games considering, you know, AI. Yostar made it big with Azur Lane, had a little side quest with Mahjong Soul, and as of now, Arknights Endfield is a big hit in the gacha game community, albeit with some flaws here and there on release. Though all in all, everyone likes the game mainly because of Fluorite. So instead, let's talk about Arknights. See, Arknights is a very complicated game compared to your other gacha games. It's a tower defense strategy game kind of like Bloons or Plants vs Zombies, but way more complicated and most importantly and most relevant to the story, it has anime girls in it, and also husbandos if you're into that. But now, the best part about Arknights is that you don't necessarily need to have 6-star operators to progress through the game. I've seen videos of Arknights players doing hard levels with some low-level units, which means that the game is more focused on you building these units and your strategy rather than who has the biggest wallet or alternatively, who is the most financially irresponsible. If that wasn't enough, Arknights has an insane amount of lore for fellas on the autism spectrum to get into. Personally, I checked out on anything lore related because there's just like so much lore. Please, make it stop! But thankfully, if you aren't into Arknights lore, you could just focus on the gameplay, which again is either you strategizing the literal ball sack out of a level with a set of ants as operators, or you could just farm the hell out of the game. Alternatively, you could just wail like everyone else. That's the beauty of it. There is no one way to play Arknights. You would think that a refreshing gameplay mechanic and techwear waifus would be a slam dunk when marketing it, but tell you what, it's not as easy as it sounds. So back to the main point of the video. If you were Yostar, how would you sell the techwear waifus vs zombies gacha game? Well, here are some ways that they did it. Early on into Arknights' life as a game, and I mean like back in 2018-2019, I assume that whoever was in charge of marketing Arknights either is not getting paid enough, doesn't have much faith in the game because it doesn't goon as hard as Azur Lane, or needs to be executed by firing squad, because what the fuck was he thinking when he made this? Well, listen, I can tell you right now, I can sort of understand why Arknights ads turned out this way. You see, most likely, they had a tiny budget for it and presumably spent the money on ad space considering how much it got spammed early on, or they spent it getting high on their own supply. You see, the strategy here was that they would kidnap random tourists on the street and force them at gunpoint to make these ads, or alternatively, they just hired them off of Craigslist or something, but I like to believe that there is a far more morbid reason for this kind of acting. But in all seriousness, early Arknights ads were more like your typical mobile game ads, where they would somewhat showcase the gameplay, but it was so obviously cheap and so badly made that it grew a reputation among people who actually played Arknights. They did not like it, to say the least. So there's your first marketing strat. Make it so bad that it becomes good. aka the Who Killed Captain Alex strategy. I won't lie, it's a decent marketing strategy if you don't have a lot of money, that is, which is what I assume happened here. To make it very clear for you guys, what this strat does is that it allows you to essentially create a shitpost as an ad. You don't need a lot of money, and it spreads the word about whatever the hell you're creating much faster than a normal SpongeBob looking ass commercial. Granted, that doesn't mean that they'll buy your stuff, but that just comes with the territory. If I'm being honest right now, the early ads for Arknights weren't that bad by mobile game standards. Arknights was a relatively new game with a relatively new approach that has been barely tested in the gacha game space, so you can't exactly put all of your eggs into one basket in case it fails. So it only makes sense that you make cheap ads that get the point across, even if it means kidnapping Sea Dog VA and holding him at gunpoint to make ads. But a drawback that I mentioned earlier with these ads is that the people who will see these ads would probably think of it as just another cheap mobile game, especially if they see this ad. Same thing happened with Azur Lane, but that's a different story for a different video. A common complaint that I see from Arknights players about these ads were that they were bad, and it didn't represent the gameplay quite well, but again, I tell you, these ads were meant for people who don't play Arknights, meaning that they had to condense the gameplay quite a lot just to reel you in. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But as the game got more and more popular and as Yostar gained more and more money, enough to establish their own animation studio in Japan, Arknights ads got way better. Miles better than this House MD looking ass. And here, my friend, was the most legendary Arknights ad of all time. At the speed of lighting, we can summon. You most likely have heard this ad before. This is for the Code of Brawl story event, and ever since then, Arknights has been releasing banger after banger after banger, and eventually they got an anime and Endfield came into the mix, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. If you're still wondering, they likely made these animations in-house with their studio. But what's interesting to note is that the Wikipedia page for Yostar Pictures says that their total equity is around 5 million yen or 31,000 US dollars. Dude, I make that kind of money in one night. In Night Runners. Also, if you remember that joke I made about Sea Dog being held hostage just to make ads, the ad in question was made at around the same time that the Code of Brawl ad released, presumably backed by some serious Azur Lane money. McLaren P1, my beloved. So you can see that back then they were just dipping their toes into advertising Arknights, but as they got more and more money, and as Arknights popped off, they went balls deep into it. Fuck toes, we licking the whole ass feet. All of that was backed by the fact that Arknights was just that good a game, especially amidst the whole Genshin Impact craze around that time. Actually, in comparison, Arknights is the polar opposite of Genshin Impact. If Genshin is colorful, mainstream friendly, has a world free for you to explore, but absolutely deadly for your bank account, Arknights is muted, limited, requires you to strategize every move, every step of the way, but it's free to play friendly. So obviously, word of mouth amplifies whatever marketing Hypergriff and Yostar were already doing at that time. Speaking of, while Azur Lane was already able to do collaborations, most notably with Hololive and SSSSSSSSS Gridman, Arknights just said, nah, I'd win, and collaborated with some relatively small-time franchises like, I don't know, KFC, Rainbow Six Siege, Monster Hunter, Limbus Company, Destiny 2, and Bandori, Ave Mujica, What the fuck? So clearly, Hypergriff or Yostar was slanging meat around like Drake or something. So theoretically speaking, if you were a fan of one of these franchises, except for KFC, if you are actually a fan of KFC, they invented insane asylums specifically just for you. You would hear about Arknights through these collabs alone. I had a friend who was this huge Limbus Company fan who wound up getting into Arknights because of the collab. That, and because I wouldn't stop bugging him about it. Yo, have you played Arknights yet? Dude, I swear to God, you've been bugging me for weeks now. No, I will not play Arknights. No, I do not want to hear about how much you want to turn Exusiai's armpit sweat into moonshine. Just shut up. Please, shut up. Damn, okay, you could have just said so. In conclusion, if you want to market a product, just make a good product and everything will just sort itself out.
At the speed of light here, we can send an